What's up, my ninjas? This is just a quick, I don't know, thoughts video on the leaked trailer for Batman versus Superman. Dawn of Justice. You already know, like I said, I don't really give a shit. I'm hoping that it's good, so it's something quality to watch that has, the two most popular superheroes on the fucking planet, in it. Because they're two of my favorite characters, and I would love to see a movie where they're done right for a change, or done well enough that it's really epic and really, good to see, especially after watching the animated version of The Dark Knight Returns. But anyway, so I went on Polygon and I saw the trailer on there, and the author was extremely biased, and he had this very snarky kind of perspective that, as a reviewer, or even if you were a journalist, your job is to report the news. You know what I mean? So if this is news, you tell us what it is, and then you let us figure out for ourselves how we feel about it. And that's how it works for some stuff, unless it's a product that you had to buy. The company did not supply you with this. You had to pay for it, or you were interested in it. You bought it. You're saying what you see, and then you later on you say what you feel now that you own this thing. Anyway, this guy said that it's awful. The trailer is awful. It's everything. What did he say? Let me quote them. It's everything that's wrong with DC's films. Now, we already know DC does not have the greatest track record, but it's as if this was positioned just to start up more controversy and have more people fighting in the comments and shit like that. He complains about it being a darker take. I mean, if the two of them are fighting each other, then it can't possibly be happy. If Batman is one of the one side of the equation, it can't be a happy-go-lucky joy fest. You know what I'm saying? Batman is the quintessential morose fucking romantic hero in the story sense, not romantic as in relationship, romantic as in, he has a very tragic story, and that's the basis for his character. Superman has an air of tragedy to him, but at the same time, he uses that tragedy as a motivation and a way for him to relate, or a way for him to I don't know, be an example to others who have had similar tragedy. I mean, he lost his whole people, everybody, and in this version, he actually had to repel them by killing one of them and sending the others off into parts unknown. So he's the last of his kind, partially by his own hand, even though the whole, all the events were set in motion way before he was even able to make a choice. So there's tragedy. It's just this version of Superman is trying to find his way and trying to serve as an example for mankind, trying to help mankind as much as he can, So it's not a happy-go-lucky, joy fest. It can't be. I said this when I reviewed Man of Steel. It was literally his first day learning this is what you're supposed to do. And it's like fucking God shat all over him. Like, dude, you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do this. The people are going to hate you. This guy's going to try to kill people. You're going to have to kill someone. You're going to have to learn how to save everybody and use all your powers. I mean, literally, he had everything dropped on him. Anyway, in this trailer, you kind of get the idea that people are amazed. There's a voiceover by several characters, one of which is probably Lex Luthor, and another person sounded like, he had a British accent, so I'm assuming it was Alfred. And they're explaining that the people kind of are looking at Superman as a god, but they don't believe, whoever it is that's speaking doesn't believe, which I'm assuming is Lex, in the part where, he says something about gods don't come from the hell beneath us, they come from the sky. It's got to be Lex, but they don't trust him. They talk about power corrupting, absolutely, and blah blah blah. And then you see images of Batman, and you see all these different city shots, people reaching up at Superman, and it's clearly painting the picture that some people are kind of in like worship mode, and they're kind of like, oh my God, this is a god. This guy is ridiculously powerful. He's come to save us. We don't even know where and why, but he did. And actually, they should know why and where, because that is established firmly by Zod and his people in the first film. But anyway, you see people are worshiping Superman. That's the point. And obviously Batman is like, fuck that. I'm not worshiping anybody. I don't believe in this, and I'm going to fuck him up and prove that blah, blah, blah. You know, he's not a god, and, you know, I'm going to see what he's all about. And at the end, he asks him, can you bleed, in this really evil, digitized voice. When I say digitized, you know it's not, it's an altered voice. It's not Ben Affleck's normal voice. It sounds awesome. It sounds like a villain from something else. It's real grovelly, and he sounds powerful. I was like, wow, okay. And he asks him, can you bleed? And that sounded like something out of like Rocky or some shit, or Predator. Fucking, I ain't got time to bleed. That'd have been awesome too. Can you bleed? I ain't got time to bleed. You know, Superman, I ain't got time to bleed. Anyway, it cuts, you see Superman, and then he says, you will. So, you know, it's Batman trying to punk Superman, you know. It's bait. It's bait to get the fanboys in a uproar and to get people interested. I mean, this is what superhero movies kind of do. You know, and this hasn't been done before, where they take two heroes and put them opposite each other. And Marvel even jumped on that bandwagon with their Civil War story that's going to be used as a film. You know, in comics, it's done all the time. But I mean, in film, it really, hasn't been done to this degree. Because like I said a long time ago with the Avengers and, you know, Marvel's Phase 1 characters, they chose to take characters that were like B, C, and maybe D-list characters and update them and upgrade them and make them better, so that when they do have them in these situations, it'd be a big deal. They sell them to the people in a more amped up kind of way, and it makes them more popular. It helps make them popular, boosts their popularity, and boosts the interest in these characters, and it takes them from their previous status to A-list, because now people know the Avengers the way they used to know the Justice League, you know? My problem isn't with the trailer. I really don't give a shit about the trailer. A lot of trailers, people don't understand the trailers. They're all cut by the same people. They're told what kind of vibe to give the trailer. Whether or not it's the actual vibe of the film, that's irrelevant. They want a vibe that will get people's attention. Most trailers for most dramatic films don't actually tell you the story the way it is. They always tweak it some way so that you feel like either it's an action movie, either it's a, you know, a comedy, either it's got, you know, horror elements. I mean, they flip the script all the time. And you've seen on YouTube with the billions of trailers that fans have done, you can take any subject matter and with clever editing and proper music and sound effects, you can turn that footage into any genre you want. Like Scary Mary. They took Mary Poppins, flipped the way everything was, you know, presented, little crackly grain filters, black and white, that quick fade to black with the doom sound effect, and, you know, scary-ish music, and they made Mary Poppins look scary. You can do it with anything. The point of the matter is, the trailer is giving you one vibe, and the film might have another vibe. It might not be far from this, you know, so don't get me wrong. I don't want to see in the comments motherfuckers trying to tell me, what do you think this is? Blah, 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 blah. Motherfucker, pay attention. I'm saying it won't be exactly like this. Like, when we all saw the trailers for Watchmen, Watchmen looked like a superhero film. But then when you watch the film, it's just a drama that contains superheroes, or costumed adventurers, as they were called in the film. It's so much deeper than just pure action. There's actually not much action in the movie. There's a couple fights, but the fights kind of help set off what was being explored during that portion of the film. It's not like there was this big lead up to this huge confrontation, except for the confrontation at the end of the film. That's probably the biggest one, and that's the shortest fight in the film. It's the shortest fight in the film. So I think that the vibe that you got in this was to set it up and to hype it up for you, because it's still kind of a teaser. It's the longest we've gotten, it's the most we've seen, but it's still not a full-on, it's not the full-on trailer to get you really amped yet. It's just to get you kind of hyped and still leave enough questions for you to want to get up and go see the damn movie. But this guy was like, he said that everything's wrong with it. We've already established that DC is going in that grimdark direction, and they shouldn't. He says that this stands in stark contrast to the rapturous reaction in the Star Wars trailer today. Man, listen, how is it that you take superheroes, Batman and Superman, and compare them to Star Wars? That's not even fair. That doesn't even make sense. Star Wars, no matter how good or how bad, it's been cemented as like this American phenomenon. You know what I mean? Actually, it's a worldwide phenomenon, because there's people all over the world that know what Star Wars is and love Star Wars, love the characters, no matter how stupid. I mean, Boba Fett was a fucking punk-ass character that got killed immediately. He flew up and shot a couple rounds and got shot down or hit down into a fucking monster and died. And everybody's like, he looks so badass, and his figures are so sought after, and blah, blah, blah. All because of the design of the character, and because of stories written outside of the continuity of the film, just so that they can use this character and make his legend more badass, even though he came to that punk-ass end. You know what I mean? Star Wars is that thing that, like, it defies logic how popular this thing is when you really examine a lot of the characters that are fan favorites, The films, 3 of the films are amazing. And then the rest of the shit out there is garbage, except for a lot of the fan stuff with really well done special effects, because a lot of the fans understand the franchise better than the guys that are in charge of it, including Lucas himself. Hence, what this new movie is going to be awesome. Dude complained about how there's an overwhelming gloom, and there's this there's a satirical take on the dour colors and overwhelming gloom of DC's films. He said there's no real characterization on Batman, and then he says Zack Snyder's take on Superman doesn't do enough to paint a new picture of the character, while ignoring everything else that's made the classic take on the Man of Steel so iconic. Okay, first off, and you guys can, correct me if I'm wrong. Batman versus Superman, I'm pretty sure, was not written by Zack Snyder. It was written by David Goyer and Chris Terrio. I think that's Terrio. I hope I'm saying that right, and it's not Terrid. Yeah, it's Terrio. So, once again, you have someone who's supposed to be informing the public at large about something, and he doesn't even know what the guy's job is, and he name dropped. Zack Snyder's take on Superman. Zack Snyder is a fucking director. Yes, he writes from time to time, or he'll have input, but he's the director. He's the general manager of the production. The writers are the guys, and we already know about David Goyer. I keep telling you guys, I keep saying, get this shit right if you're going to report on films. All these people that are fans of superhero films, they bitch and moan and they complain and they give people like Bryan Singer props for writing stuff, even though he got writing credits for giving his 2 cents. He didn't write that shit. The X-Men movies had like 6 or 7, maybe even 8 writers before they even said at the last minute, we want Singer to direct this stuff. The thing fell through 50 times before they finally said, we need a different director, because other directors were like, this is a mess, fuck this. And then you give all the credit to Bryan Singer, and he didn't write shit. Now, you want to give, because you don't like something, this guy here, and many others have done it, you want to diss Zack Snyder as if it's all his writing. There's people in boardrooms that work with the producers, that there's producers that pick writers, there's scripts that are out there, and they look over the landscape and then they decide which thing they want from whichever set of writers are out there. When they do this, the director has to work with what they chose. This is how it works. It's a script. It's like if you are a construction team and you're brought in to build a building that has been signed off on by the people who are funding the project. You know what I'm saying? So a firm, an architectural firm, has already been hired to design a building. There is a particular person who will oversee all of the work to make sure that it is up to snuff, it's up to spec, but the people building it don't have a say in how this shit is going to turn out because they have to follow the fucking plans. Zack Snyder and most directors, that's where they fall in the scheme of things. I am so fucking tired. I mean, like, I wish you could, I would take a picture of my face when I read this shit. I'm like, here we go again. And he quickly he said exactly what I just told you about the no characterization on Batman, the overwhelming gloom of the DC films, and, you know, then he compares it to Star Wars, and then he gives you the Star Wars trailer at the bottom, and that's the end of the fucking article. Why does this motherfucker have a job? I mean, I'm sure maybe something he's done might have been better than this, but, like, this was clearly, like, clickbait to get, like, hundreds of people to start arguing in the comments, which is exactly what happened. I really can't stand the way things work, you know. I'm sorry that this is so long for me to just talk about this. I normally don't give a shit about trailers. I don't review trailers. I find it stupid. It's like gossiping because you heard something from somebody, or, you know, girls do that shit in school all the time. So-and-so said the latest gossip on the street is like blah, 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 blah. And you're just like, ugh, God. I always stay clear of gossip. I don't like that shit. I like to tell you what I actually see with my own eyes and how I feel about shit that exists that is, you know, of some kind of consequence. Like I told you before, I feel like the DC films are going to be a big train wreck. They're turning into one. But there's little things that I've seen that's given me hope to make me feel like it's not so bad. Or it's not going to be so bad. Overall, though, I'm still not 100%... I'm not sold. And I don't know. I'm waiting to see this. I'm waiting to see what it turns out to be like, you know? If it comes out and it's awesome, I'll be happy because then, you know, I have a film finally with Batman and Superman closer to the comics that's worth my time. Because I'm tired of re-envisionings of all these characters. And, you know, yeah, Superman falls into that in this, you know, he falls into that category in Man of Steel, in this new DC universe. And I am tired of that. I agree, you know, with a lot of people who said they want, like, the one that the Superman that we deserve, the one that, you know, that's so firmly cemented into everyone's mind. But Christopher Reeve is dead, so we can't really get that, you know? And there's legal stuff that kind of prevents that from happening, so we don't have to, but you have to understand why we have this one. And this one is not super bad. Even though the tone of his films is not the same tone that's usually associated with Superman on film, it's a tone that typically shows up in comics. Yes, the colors could be brighter. I get that. But that's your fault that shit is like that. You guys made the Dark Knight trilogy make $1 billion. Now, if you guys didn't start with that grimdark shit and everything in the first place, no one would have ever in the history of mankind, no one would have ever arrived at the concept at DC that all the movies need to be grimdark. It's your fault that it's like that. So now that it is that way, instead of bitching about it, take it in and see what they're trying to say, given that this is the way that world works. That's literally all you can do. All of these trends are your fault. Transformers made each movie, and all together they've made several $1 billion, and you keep paying for it. And then you bitch about how bad the movies are. Some people don't care. You know, most of the people that made that money don't care. But then you have fans, especially the fucking Transformers toy fans, who you buy up every fucking Transformer. Every single one. It doesn't matter how shitty, how poorly done, how backwards the concept is, you buy every single one. And you continue to make that shit sell money, or make money, because you give them your money. And then you bitch about it. It's the most passive-aggressive bullshit I've ever seen. You can't complain about something that you paid for, you readily support, and you make it that way. You guys have made superhero movies grimdark. It's your fault. You can't get mad. Marvel's smart. Marvel said, we're not doing that because that's not how we roll. But when you look at Daredevil, they're like, oh, we can dip into that grimdark shit, and they did it with Daredevil. And you guys are eating it up. But you can't complain now when you see Superman and Batman in a grimdark situation. I mean, you have to understand, like, it's a business, and if this sells tickets, they're going to keep on doing it. When you guys make Avengers make millions or billions more than Superman and Batman films, then they'll change it. Then they'll say, okay, we need to lighten this shit up. That's why there's such a big gap between the upcoming DC films and the Marvel films. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why, like, Justice League is, like, way out in the distance, because they want to see what this does. This will determine the landscape for the next 10 years for DC films. So anyway, I've bitched them enough. I just wanted to get my 2 cents into this because I felt like that was a really unfair and poorly done article. And it kind of shows how people online, bloggers and shit, how they find a way to pick a side really quick, and then they kind of tip the scales in favor of that. I mean, like, obviously, if you bring in the Star Wars crowd in this video about Batman versus Superman's leaked trailer that everybody wants to see, there's way more Star Wars fans. For some odd reason, I guess because it's not tied to anything else except for itself. It's its own thing. So you bring them in, all the dorks that make costumes, the guys that love just the shows, the people who like the expanded universe, the people who don't like the expanded universe. You just brought in a world of other people that have nothing to do with Batman versus Superman. And now it's completely skewed. Everything is skewed in favor of Star Wars, and the people who, you know, have been waiting for this trailer are outnumbered on something that they actually are invested in. You know what I mean? It's dirty. I mean, it's ingenious to some degree because this is the way it works, but it's ingenious in a very underhanded kind of way, and I hate that kind of shit, you know? I'm about the truth, and that's why I keep telling you guys straight up either how things are factually or just the truth about how I feel about something. So anyway, get at me in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace outside.